Hola amigos, Jim here from Spanish and Go, and today we're sitting down with Jeremy from The World or Bust, and we're going to talk about some language learning tips from an expat. So let's get started. So, Jeremy, tell me about yourself.
Sure, my name is Jeremy Albelda. I'm originally from Philadelphia in the US, and I've been living here in Mexico for about 3 years now, on and off. And I'm a travel blogger, and I run an internet marketing company here.
So, how many languages do you speak?
I'd say one, fluently, English. My Spanish is probably 80% there, and I used to be able to read Hebrew, but now that's about 1%.
Well, he's bluffing. His Spanish is actually really good. So, how does that work out for you living here? Like, how does knowing Spanish help your professional life? Because you work here, right?
Yeah, so when I first moved here, obviously it was mostly conversational stuff, just getting around. And I actually studied Spanish in university and back in high school. And to be honest, I studied for almost 10 years, and I went to Spain to study abroad, and I couldn't even say a sentence. So I lived in Miami for 8 years, so that kind of helped beef things up in more of a conversational setting. But when I moved to Mexico is when I really felt the fire under my butt, and I kind of felt just awkward not being able to communicate. So I kind of really put an effort into speaking Spanish. And now I just bought an apartment a few months ago, so that whole process really kind of beefed everything up, because it was kind of business, law, Spanish that I'd never learned before, and speaking to, not just conversationally, it was things with lawyers and, my realtor. So it was much more formal, which was a little stressful, but it helped a lot to get it a lot better now.
Right on. What helped you the most when learning Spanish? Like, what really took you to the next level?
When I studied abroad in Spain about 10 years ago, and when I first went there, I was so embarrassed how bad my conversational Spanish was, and my vocab, and just the local colloquial sayings. So that's one thing, is you learn from a book or from a class, but then when you go travel anywhere, it's going to be different than what you learned, right? So once you get to a certain level, you can kind of understand what the local people are saying and their local sayings and things like that. And you just kind of work those into what you're saying, and it helps people you're speaking to understand you more, then also helps you feel more calm, and that you can kind of take it to the next level. But I'd say one thing that really helped, especially, was reading the newspaper and reading online and magazines, because most of those things are written for, 5th to an 8th grade level. And it's a great place to pick up vocabulary, and it's also contextual. So it's not just reading something you don't care about in a book in school. It's, real world news, or, you can choose anything you want to read about. You want to read about, the history of, the Titanic, but, read it in Spanish. So just put things in context, and it helps keep your interest.
What's your most embarrassing language mishap? Like, situation you were in, you're trying to communicate something and it just didn't come out the way you wanted it to?
So I studied abroad in Argentina as well for one summer, and there, coger means different things than in Spain. And I was at a house party, or over at a house with some friends, and they had a dog like grab something off the table. Yeah. And I said, like, coge el perro. And everyone started laughing at me. And then I was like, what? And they're like, you'll learn. You'll find out later. So.
But that's a good learning experience too, right? Like, you never forgot.
And I guess for people that don't know, coger in Spain means to grab, and in other Latin American countries it means to boom, boom. Yeah. So you can put the two together.
Oh, what difficulties have you encountered learning Spanish? Like, is there anything in specific?
I think the hardest thing is in English, we don't have, we obviously have the tenses, but the irregular verbs, and I still have a problem with agreements with lo and la, and sometimes there's, el agua, when you would think it would be la agua. Right. Smaller things like that, but to really be fluent, you got to nail those things down, and I still have a lot of trouble with that. And the only way you're gonna learn those is either by really immersing yourself and hearing it all the time, or really studying a lot. So you have to do one or the other. So, and I have sometimes trouble with like the different, I don't even know how you would say it. If someone's like a señora, like someone older, you're supposed to say le instead of te, some things like that. Sometimes I come off a little bit.
The usted form.
Yeah, brusque. Yeah. But I don't mean it, I swear.
Right. So how has knowing Spanish affected your professional life?
It's definitely helped me big time. So I used to live in Miami, and before I kind of left and did the whole digital nomad thing, I was doing a lot of experiential marketing management and working in trade shows and things like that. And you can imagine Miami, there's lots of international trade shows, Latin American based ones. So to be able to speak both, or at least communicate in Spanish to people coming was, I got much more work. Here, I actually own a part owner of an English pub now, and we have some employees. So most of them speak some English, but there's things that I have to communicate in Spanish and, make sure they understand it both, because it's my business now. And if they don't, what they don't do affects me on the other side. So
If you could turn back time, knowing what you know now in Spanish, what would you tell the younger Jeremy just learning Spanish that you know now as language advice?
I started studying in 7th grade, and I just never saw the purpose. My mom was always hammering at me. She's pretty fluent in Spanish. And she was, it was like, this is important. And for me, it was like, it was never contextual in my life. But I wish I studied a little harder. And actually, I didn't study my senior year of high school, and I forgot everything. And then I went to college, and then it was like starting over again. But for me now, like telling not only myself as a young person, but learning another language is, I think it's part of being educated. And one, it makes traveling so much more fun when you get to understand a culture on a whole nother level and communicate. And when you can tell a joke in another language and someone else laughs, regardless, in your own language, but in another language, it's great. And you can really connect with people like that.
Cool, man. Well, thanks for your time. It's been awesome.
Thanks for having me.
Cool, guys. Well, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Be sure to check out theworldorbust.com.
Stay sexy, my friends.
Be sure to check out his page. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you like this video, and we'll see you next time. Nos vemos pronto.